Good evening and welcome to episode 20 of Tuesdays with Terry. Tonight we are going to be discussing selling your home for the highest possible price. I think it's helpful when you decide to sell your property to try and put yourself in a position of a buyer and make it an objective look at your house. I can tell you as a realtor from having many open houses and even open houses where I sold the property that buyers come in looking for, I don't want to say problems, but they look for reasons to offer less money for your house, which is why it's a good idea to not be there during an open house or during a showing, because this is all a negotiation ploy. And they may come in and they may say negative things about your house that may upset you. So you really want to take emotion out of the equation and try and think like a buyer thinks, how a buyer would perceive your house upon first seeing it. So what happens as a buyer? Well, you are either driving around and you see a property that you're interested in. You're on a third-party website like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and you see a property that interests you, or your realtor that you're working with sends you a property that interests you. Oftentimes, people will do a drive-by, and whether they do a drive-by or whether they just show up for the showing, their first impression is very, very important. So curb appeal is the first issue you want to address. Why is that important? Well, I've had clients that I've sent listings to, and we showed up and they thought it was a nice house. It was in their price range in a neighborhood they liked. We showed up to the house and they didn't even want to get out of the car and go in and look at the house. Now, it turned out that the inside of the house looked a lot nicer than the outside of the house. But their impression was formed just by driving up and seeing that it looked like the yard was unkempt, the mulch looked old, the hedges looked overgrown. In their mind, this is a house that hadn't been well maintained. So the first thing is to make the house inviting from the outside. Does that mean repaint your house? Does that mean put all new landscaping in? No, not necessarily. I mean, if your house hasn't been painted in 25 years, then you might want to consider painting your house. You certainly want to freshen up. If the sidewalk is dirty and grimy, the driveway, have it pressure washed. Have the flower beds freshened up with some new mulch or rocks. These are inexpensive things you can do to the outside. Paint the front door. Put new hardware on the front door. These are things that can make the house inviting. So you've gotten out of your car. You've decided to go into the house. Remember, you're thinking as a buyer. And so your first impression is the outside of the house. It's enticing enough to get you to go inside. And then You open the door and then boom, uh, you get hit with a lot of visual information. And how you interpret that is going to determine immediately whether you have a like or a dislike for the house. So, of course, you want your house to look the best. You want it to look welcoming. Uh, you want to create a space that the buyers can own, that they can see themselves living in. If you have too much furniture, it's going to look small. If you have too many paintings, pictures on the wall, it's also going to make it look smaller, and it's also going to give them, the potential buyers, a feeling of they are intruding on your personal space. You don't want that. You don't necessarily have to make your house look like a model home, but you probably want to remove some furniture and you want to declutter. You want to get rid of all the little personal knickknacks that mean something to you, but don't mean something to a stranger. So, what other things are going through a buyer's mind? Is the house in move-in condition? Is this a fixer-upper, which is another story that we'll talk about. Remember, as the buyer, you're trying to get top dollar for the house, and as the seller, you're looking for reasons not to pay top dollar. So the house should look in move-in condition. It should be clean and bright. If your house hasn't been painted in 10 years, put a coat of paint on it. If you have some loud colors in your house, for instance, a bright blue in the bedroom, a red in the dining room, these colors may have been in fashion at one time, and they may add to your feeling at home. However, it's not going to work for a potential buyer. So, you want to paint the house white, inside of the house white, beige, off-white, something that's going to reflect light and make the space look bigger. No nasty smells. If you have a dog, you have a cat, you have pets, you're going to have odors. So you need to do something about that. You need to place candles around, plug in air fresheners or Febreze. Maybe you need to have the carpets cleaned to get rid of some of that smell. But once again, neutral wall colors. You want to depersonalize the house and make it, think about a model home. When you come in a model home, there's not a lot of furniture there. It looks bright, it looks inviting, and people say to themselves, oh, I could see myself here. You might want to convey the sense of a lifestyle that you have in the house. If I have a house that has a pool, well, I want to put some things in the pool, put some inflatables, put a raft, put a few things in the pool, give people the idea of what it's like living in a house with a pool. An attractive exterior, we've already covered that, and that's part of, the curb appeal. So, as I said a few minutes ago, unless it's being sold as a fixer-upper, which means you're not trying to get the most money for your house, you're just trying to sell it as is, you really need to include appliances with the house. You have to have appliances. It's better to have nice appliances. Recently, I did an open house that the kitchen had been renovated, but they didn't update the appliances. So the refrigerator, the range, the dishwasher, the microwave were older. They weren't original, but they were older, and they weren't all the same brand. Every person that came to that open house mentioned that. Well, they renovated the kitchen. Why didn't they go ahead and update the appliances? So you want to think this out a little bit ahead of time. If you're going to put your house on the market and you want to try and get the most you can for your house, you may want to spend 6 months getting the house ready to sell. You can't beat the market. It's just like stock market. I mean, the average person can't beat the market. Are prices sky high right now for real estate and interest rates low? Yes. But you can't really time it that way. I mean, yes, you can probably get more for your house right now in this market than you have in the past several years. But if you're going out to buy another property, well, you're going to pay the most for that property that you paid for a property in several years. I mean, the silver lining is interest rates are still low. So a lot of people, if they're not buying a fixer-upper, uh, they're looking for a house that they can just move into and maybe make repairs as time goes on. Uh, they're not going to have money, usually, to buy new appliances, especially if this is a first-time home buyer, if this is a younger couple. Remember, they've saved up money for a down payment. They have expenses. They have inspections. They have appraisals. They have things that they have to pay out of pocket besides the down payment. So they're not going to have an extra $4,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 for top of the line appliances. So you want to wow them when they come to the showing. And it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money to do that. Appliances will cost you some money. However, if you have 6 months to plan for this, you can find some appliances on sale. Stainless steel is definitely the popular thing now, but it doesn't have to be stainless steel. It just has to be new and fresh. A good example is we look at a kitchen here. On the left, you see the kitchen as it was. On the right, you see that they just painted. They painted the backsplash area and they threw a fresh coat of paint on the cabinets, same cabinets, and they put new handles on the cabinets. Handles can cost, a nice door handle can cost $2-3 a piece, but that's a lot cheaper than spending $1,000 for cabinets. And once again, what did they do? They made it look lighter. They made it look brighter. They made the space look bigger. Other things that people look for when they're coming in to view a house, if they're serious buyers, they're going to take a hard look at the air conditioner. They're going to take a look at the unit. They're going to want to see where the air handler is. If the air handler is upstairs in the attic, that's a little problematic. They can't necessarily see that, but they're going to go out and they're going to look at the unit outside the house. And appearances mean a lot. An air conditioning system is usually good for 10, 15 years. Sometimes you can stretch it out to 10 years, but keep in mind that anybody that goes under contract to purchase a house is going to have a home inspection. And part of that home inspection is taking a gauge and testing the temperature of the air that's coming out of the vents. So if you have an old unit that's working, but is not efficient or is not working as good as it did 10 years ago, that's going to show up. So if you're looking to get top dollar for your house and you're looking to spend some money to try and get a greater return, while replacing the AC unit is a good thing to look at. once again, we talked about earlier, maybe preparing for this 6 months in advance. Now, you can do shopping and you can try and find a great deal on a unit. Maybe there are rebates available. Maybe there's a financing plan that you could then take out once you sell the house from the profits of the house. So AC units very important in Florida. What are some other issues that buyers will look for? Savvy buyers will go to the electrical box, to the fuse, what you used to call the fuse box. They'll open it up and they'll see how new it is. They'll also see what the brand is. And the reason they do that is because some electric panels are no longer insurable. The biggest one is Federal Pacific. If it says Federal Pacific on your box, you need to switch that out. Because what can happen is the house goes under contract, you have the inspection, the inspector is going to point that out, that the fuse box needs replaced, the electrical box needs replaced. But they're not going to be able to get an insurance binder on that electrical box. Federal Pacific, Zinsco, Sylvania, and I think there are a couple others. The insurers, no mas, no more. They won't insure it. So that's a simple fix. You know, it could be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. That's a big selling point. Now, if you've updated the front of the house, you've whitened up the house, brightened up the house with fresh light paint. You've refurbished the kitchen, maybe bought new appliances. That would be your expense. If nothing else, paint the cabinets, put new hardware on it, replace the electrical box. You're not talking about a lot of money here, and this is money that can come back to you because a lot of people looking to purchase a house aren't looking to put money into it right away for basic items. And the electric panel is a big thing because they're not going to be able to get insurance. What's going to happen is then they're going to default on the contract. They're going to, if it's as is contract, they have anywhere from 5 to 15 days to pull out of the sale and get their deposit back, and that's exactly what they'll do. And then you're back to start with somebody else. The same thing's going to happen again. Inspectors don't miss these things. And what we're seeing now, especially in Florida, is underwriting requirements, especially for older homes, are getting a little bit tighter. So while they may, on an older house, on a newer house, usually when you're purchasing a house, you call up an insurance company, you give them basic information, they look the property up, the insurance company looks the property up, they look to see if there's any previous insurance claims. And they look up the basic information and they send a binder. Then after the closing, then they send an inspector out to look at the house, and then you might have to make some changes. However, on an older house, they're liable to send somebody out to the house before they issue the binder. So that means that they're going to be looking at your hot water tank. They're going to be looking at your plumbing to see if there are any leaks. They're going to be looking at the roof. How much life does the roof have left on it? And of course, they're going to look at the electrical system, and they're going to look at the box. Roofs are the biggest issue. Now, there are some financing programs out there that you can, it's a FHA 203K program, and some lending institutions have their own rehab loans, but it's a little bit higher interest rate and sometimes requires a little bit higher credit score. So if you're not doing that, you're not getting a rehab loan, then a roof is a very big deal because that's probably the most expensive item there can be, especially in South Florida. What's the life for a roof? 10, 15 years, maybe 20, 25 years for a concrete tile roof, a barrel tile roof. insurance companies are very leery to insure houses that have roofs older than 10, 15 years. FHA is a little bit different. FHA only requires 2, 3, 5 years life left on the roof, but that's different from getting insurance or getting an insurance binder. So this is something you want to take into consideration before selling your house. And most times it's not worth doing a repair. It's just not worth it. Go ahead and replace the roof. Now, if this is the second or third roof that you're replacing on the house and it's an FHA guaranteed loan from the buyer, they're going to require a new roof. So these are things that you want to head off. And we're talking about getting the most money for your house. And once again, we're talking about the roof, and it might be a good idea to have a roofing company come out and do an inspection, because it can't always tell just from looking at it or from age. It could look good from sight, but until you're up there crawling around on the roof, you don't really know. Maybe there are shingles that are loose. Maybe there's been some leaking, that you haven't observed on the inside of the house, but it's leaked onto the wood underneath the tile, the roofing tile. So once again, roofing is a big issue when it comes to getting the most dollar for your house. So you really want to put yourself in the mindset of a buyer when you're looking at your house, and try and look at the house objectively as you do a walkthrough, because potential buyers, all you have to do is sit in an open house and you can see people come in and make comments. Oh, tile needs replaced. Oh, the carpet needs replaced. Oh, the house needs repainted. Oh, those appliances are old. In their mind, they're ticking off dollars that they think the house is worth less than what you're asking. Doesn't matter what you're asking. That's their mindset. Oops, I'm having a problem with my presentation here. It seems to have locked up. Give me a second here. Let me see if I can unlock this. Yes, there we go. Okay, so what I was just talking about, you want to take a fresh look. You want to try and be as objective as you can. Have your realtor do a walkthrough with you. Have a friend do a walkthrough with you. Pull up to the house like you're looking at it for the first time. Work your way through the driveway to the front door. Go through the house. Go to the backyard. Look around. What are you seeing? You've lived in the house. What are the little things that you know that are there, and that you know are there, that might not be obvious to a buyer, but an inspector is going to see, or things that are just obvious. I mean, you go to the backyard and it looks unkempt. Maybe you dug an area for a fire pit and you don't use it anymore. So there's just like this big area in the middle of the lawn. Do something with that. Put something in there. Make it look nicer. These are the little things that you can do to make your house more attractive to a buyer. Now, this is how a buyer is going to look at the house. And this is how an inspector is going to look at the house. Now, they're not going to pull the rafters off, but I can tell you that I once had a house that I was representing the buyer. And as you look at this picture, on the underside of the house, it was a house kind of on stilts because it was in a flood zone, and this was like the parking area, and they had lots of wires hanging under there, and the inspector pointed that stuff out right away. We used that to lower the price of the house because these are repairs that were going to have to be made. And in fact, the insurance company demanded, they did issue a binder, but they came out within 30 days and they found a whole list of items in that particular house that they felt were safety issues that had to be fixed within 30 days, or they were going to rescind the policy, which would have caused a problem with the lender. So you know that a buyer is going to have an inspection first, then there's going to be an appraisal. Now, there's two different types of appraisal. There's just a general appraisal where the bank comes out, and they're just going to come out. They're going to walk around. They may get up on the roof. They're going to check a few things. Is there hot water? Is anything leaking? How is the roof? They're going to mostly look at the neighborhood and comparables. So they're going to just come out and do a brief look at the house, but most of their work is going to be on MLS, digging through solds and listings and trying to come up with comparables to see if your house, the market value, meets the price that the lender is loaning. Now, FHA appraisal is a little bit different. That's a little bit closer to an inspection. And they're mostly concerned with safety issues. So, if you have any hazards there, you have some electrical sockets that don't work, they're gonna, they're gonna find that out. And for FHA, it can go two ways. They can require it to be fixed, or you can get a credit. You can issue a credit at the closing. Now, that's not getting the highest price for your house if you have to issue a credit. So what are some of the things that that the FHA and VA appraiser will look at? And sometimes just a regular appraiser will look at this. Do you have safe and potable water with adequate pressure? Now, this comes more into play when you're in a rural area or in Palm Beach County if you're out west, say in the Acreage, Loxahatchee, if you're in Martin County or you're in St. Lucie County, that also comes into play. Safe method of sewage disposal. So if you have a septic tank, you want to get that inspected. If it's leaking, if the grass on top of your septic tank is bright green and the rest of the grass in the yard is light green or yellow, then you have a problem, and that's going to be obvious. And so, the FHA and VA is going to look at the size of the rooms. You make sure you have hot water. They're gonna try all the faucets. That there's enough lighting in the house. That the appliances are operational. It's not enough just to have a dishwasher. It's not enough to have a refrigerator. It's not enough to have a range. They have to be operational, and they will test these things. They will test the dishwasher. They will test the temperature in the refrigerator, and they will test the temperature in the range. Your foundation, we don't get that so much down here, but if the foundation has cracks, then that's something you're going to have to look at. Either that you're going to have to issue a credit. No lead paint. If your house was built before, I believe it's 1977, lead paint could be an issue. and proper grading and drainage surrounding the property. It needs to be sloping down so it's not, it's not coming into the house. Now, another thing that isn't on this list that FHA and VA will look for is additions that haven't been permitted. You've closed in the garage. You've added a bathroom. You have electrical outlets too close to the sink. You've blocked off your garage and turned it into a bedroom, but you don't have a window and you don't have a door leading to the outside, which means it wasn't permitted. And that's the first thing that somebody can tell when they come in a house and you see a garage that's been closed in. They don't see a window, they don't see a door. Well, it's obvious that this renovation was not permitted. Now, what are some of the things that aren't that important for purposes of an inspection or an appraisal? Damage to cracked windows, doors, countertops, stains on the countertops, missing handrails. However, that really is an FHA issue. If you have steps, generally speaking, if you have more than, I think, 2 steps, you have to have a handrail. Poor workmanship. You laid your own tile. It's not exactly straight. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter for purposes of an appraisal or an inspection. However, you're talking about getting the highest dollar for your house. So if you know you have these things, fix them. That's why sometimes you should be looking at these things up to 6 months in advance. Now, what else helps sell your house? Pricing your house right the very first time. Don't overprice your house. Here's a diagram I like to use. We'll take the case of a fisherman. Are you putting your house on the market, or are you putting your house in the market? Let's say you believe your house is worth $400,000, but no house in your development has sold for more than $375,000. But your house is worth $400,000, and that's what you're going to list it for, $400,000. So where are you? You're where the bobber is. You're on the market, but you're not in the market. You're not in the market until you get your hook in the water at a price that attracts potential buyers. So if you overprice your house and you sit on top of the market for 30 days, it's unlikely that you'll ever get actual market value for your house, because people wonder, why it's been on the market 30 days. Realtors will tell their clients, you don't want to offer asking price, so you offer a little bit less. Now most houses are selling around 94% of asking price. That's remarkable. But there's a lack of inventory. But just because there's a lack of inventory doesn't mean you can drastically overcharge for your house. I mean, most people buying houses have representation. Now, how do you arrive at a price for your house? Well, let me show you the copy here of what's called a BPO, a broker's price opinion. Many times when a bank acquires a foreclosure, in essence repossesses a house, or they refinance a house, they're going to ask real estate agents to go out and do a broker's price opinion. It's very similar to doing a comparative market analysis for your house that realtors do, but this is a little bit more detailed. And you can see, and this will be available later, you can download this and print it up as an image, that there's a lot of questions here. You have to discuss market conditions of the house. You have to go into detail about 3 properties that are similar, and you have to prove that they're similar, what the asking price is. Then you go to the back page and you have to list any repairs that might need to be made on the house. And then you list at least three sold properties within the last 6 months that match up well with this property. And they're also going to ask for a marketing plan. Now, this is how I do my CMA. So if I come to a listing appointment and you're interested in selling your house, and you say, I know my house is worth $400,000, but I've already done one of these, and I pulled the comps from MLS, not from Zillow, not from Realtor.com, but from MLS with real data, I can show you that your house is worth $375,000, and that's what it's going to sell for. It's not going to sell for 400, and if you sit it on the market for 30 days at 400, you're going to lose potential buyers, and you're going to end up with bottom feeders. So you should be talking to your realtor about that and trust their advice, because they've gone through the data, and I'll share the data with you that I used to compile this report. There's the second page of the report. So what am I saying? I'm saying you need to be realistic about selling your house. You have lived there. You know what the issues are with the house, and you know what the strong points are of the house. You want to emphasize the strong points. You want to de-emphasize the weak points, and you want to take care of all the minor items that you can. And if there are major items, you have to make a decision. Am I going to sell the house as is and forfeit $10,000 to $20,000? Or am I going to take that $10,000 to $20,000? Am I going to fix up the house and try and get an extra $30,000 for the house? Now, what's become very popular is having a pre-sale inspection, a pre-inspection. So that way, now, no two inspectors or home inspectors are the same, but they're there to see the obvious things. To them, might not be obvious to you. They're trained to do this. So it might be worth your while financially to have a home inspector come out and do a pre-inspection. Give you an idea of what things might be fixed. I'm giving a recommendation here of a home inspector that I've used many times, who does pre-inspections, who is not real expensive and will give you a discount if you tell them that you are working with me. So make sure to tell them if you decide to go through with this, that you heard about them through me. So I hope this has been informative. Let me see what time we have here. It feels like we're at, yes, we're past 7:30. So I hope this has been helpful. You'll find a link in the chat to all the episodes of Tuesdays with Terry. And we've gone over selling your home a couple times. This was a little bit more concentrated. Once again, I hope it was helpful. My contact information is also listed. Have a great night, and we'll see you next Tuesday.